What if your body is a deep fake of your soul? A lot of ancient people spoke about the nature of our reality being a simulation, being a fake world, and one of the consistencies of how they explained our world as an underworld or a refracted reflection of a base reality or truer world. Plato called it the Platonic realm. Even the Bible speaks in a lot of ways to let us know that the earth is quote unquote not our true home. It is the home of our body, but our soul, the immortal part of us, reside within another layer of reality beyond the layer of reality that governs the flesh. And this other layer where the soul resides is called the heavenly realm. This is the immortal realm. In order to understand why I say your body is a deep fake of your soul, think of two things, two consistencies that ancient people used to describe both the earth and their body. They describe the location of the earth in perspective to the universe as the underworld, in reference to what? They meant the world that was under heaven, which is the true world or the base reality, which we just spoke of. Not only did they refer to the earth as the quote unquote underworld, they referred to it as the fake world or the world of illusion, the matrix, the simulation, if you will. And you take those two concepts of the earth being deeply underground, or what they call hell, the underworld, the lowest dimension. So that places it in a position that we would call deep. It's buried deep. In fact, another word for the earth realm was the great deep. The great deep is another word for our location in the universe. So the word deep, the word fake, you see what I'm doing here? The earth was said to be a fake realm. It was said to be an underworld. We talking about a deep fake, right? And what I mean is, what is a deep fake? A deep fake is a false version of you. It's a caricature of a more realer thing. It's you, but it's not quite you. It's a fake, exaggerated form of you. Kind of like how they making a mockery out of the dead celebrities with the deep fake technology. And this is the exact way that ancient people referred to the body. This is how ancient people referred to the body, as sort of a deep fake to the soul, where we get the word antichrist, not the real Christ. If someone created a deep fake of me and they wanted me to do bad things, if they wanted to make a caricature out of me or something to that nature, that would be the same way that the Antichrist is to Christ. So the body is like the Antichrist and the mind is the true Christ. So the reason why I say that the body is a deep fake of the soul, because the soul is said to be the real you and the body is said to be the fake you. And it's also taught that the soul created the body and the soul existed before the body. So the soul is a higher version of the self that serves as the master copy, the untainted original version of who you truly are. And the body is like a synthetic alternative copy of that higher, truer version, which exists in a lower realm as a reflection or sort of like a shadow. And this goes back to my example here of how the 3D base reality creates the two-dimensional reflected illusion world that Plato referred to as the cave. So the true self is the most high, and it's the truest form of you. And the fake self is the most low, or the deep fake. What would be the opposite of deep fake? Something low and fake, something high and true. And this is why I'm bringing up the concept of the fact that the body is literally a deep fake in every sense of the words and all other aspects as well. Because the two words deep and fake refers to the location of the thing, which is the most low. And it refers to the fact that it is not authentic. And the science behind this reality lies in understanding how the three-dimensional reality projects the two-dimensional reality. Not only do I think the body is the deep fake of the soul, I think the soul represents the singular aspect of God, and the body represents what's called the Eloheim, the plural aspect of God. And what I'm saying is that you have several bodies and one soul. And another way to look at that, the base self right here is represented by this circle. This is the real you in the real reality up here. And then from this reality, there are many projected realities. Each of these rays of light coming from the base reality will land and become its own two-dimensional copy of the base. Each ray of light is like a spotlight, where each one will basically turn into another circle with another U in it. Right? So, boom, another circle there. And then we can make one here. I feel like Bob Ross right now. Let's make one here. And one finally here. You get the point. So this is Polaris, the base U. And just imagine, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do one more here. And one. We need 7, right? 7 chakras. Let's just squeeze one right there. So all of these are the projected selves coming from the base self. Each one of these represent you trapped in your own matrix of projected self coming from the base self. So each of these U's and each of these circles here represent a deep fake. A deep fake. And the reason it's deep is because the light of the soul creates many light rays, and each ray becomes like a spotlight for its own actor on its own stage. So a ray of light is just like a triangle, right? That's what the firmament dome is. There's a U in each world. So each of these bubbles is like a universe or circle of the earth, what you call the flat earth, the flat plane with you walking on it. But the net that's over that, the firmament dome, is actually the ray, a streak, or the tethering line that leads back home. It's a cosmic highway. Because each of these U's that is projected in the earth realm or the underworld, the reason it's the underworld, because just like when you turn on a light source, the light projects in a triangle and it will create a two-dimensional circle where it lands on the ground, just like a spotlight. That two-dimensional circle is what we call the flat earth circle of the earth, but the triangulation of that light coming from the source is what we call the firmament dome. And each ray of light is projected from the source, creating its own two-dimensional circular plane with its own firmament dome on top of it, as we can see here, the circle with the firmament dome. So there are many earths coming from the one true base reality. It was said to be 7 parallel realities with 7 versions of the self in it. But all of these 7 parallel realities are being projected from the true reality. And all of these roads lead back home to the true self. So each one of these is a layer of the self or a layer of the consciousness. Neither one represent the real thing alone. And the only way that the real true self can be manifested as a culmination of every fake self coming together to unite back at the base reality. Because each layer of the self is a layer of God's consciousness at the base reality that must return in order for it to complete the full mind of God here. So divided, each one have a piece of the puzzle. But when all the puzzle pieces come together, the full picture is seen here. But the reason I say that we are deep fakes is because you are not your body, you are your soul. Your body is like a holographic avatar that's being projected from your soul. So each of these refracted reflections resemble the true self. They all have a truth that they are embodying, which is a piece of the puzzle. But any piece of the puzzle held in your hand alone and perceived to be the full picture is a lie. So every piece of the puzzle in its own universe divided exists each as a lie. And the truth can only be revealed when each piece of the puzzle unite back at the base reality. Because that's where they unite back at, where all the roads turn into a singular point right here. And so all the shattered layers of God's consciousness must return back to the source. And that's carried out as a way of death and rebirth 7 times, or reincarnation according to the Hindu, to where we will literally become each of these versions and live out a life and die. And at the end of each life, this particular ray will be reeled in like a fishing rod. And when each one is reeled back in or captured by the fisherman who's fishing for the souls of man, in this case, Christ, then our life and death cycles will be over. Take a minute and look at what I put right here, and then we'll show you ancient depictions of this same concept. And what we're looking at from the ancient world is different sacred geometrical archetypes of different cultures telling this same story throughout different times, from Abraxas to the North Pole god we call Santa, which is Satan at the reins of each reindeer. This is also told in one of my favorite movies, Jet Li 1, where he's at the top of this mountain of all of his different versions of himself throughout parallel realities, returning back home. But in the case of this movie, it's a fight as they meet up with the master. But, you know, they had to change the script a bit. But the fight is just symbolizing the higher self trying to master the lower self, you know, and the temptation of the flesh or whatever in the underworld to rise back up to his higher self. But all of these are angles of light coming from the base reality. But what we call angles of light are really angels of light. So when we say angels of light, we really saying angles of light and vice versa, because in the Bible, angels of light are just archetypes for angles of light. So what I'm doing here is showing you the spiritual science of how the soul becomes flesh and how the parallel realities are created with each version of the self in each one. But it's important for us to realize that deep fake technology is very ancient, and that all of the technology we see coming back to the earth now is reminding us of who we are, what we are, and how we get here. AI is a direct representation of what we used to be, because as AI becomes sentient, as it becomes more self-aware, what we're learning as we look at AI become more sentient, we're seeing humans wake up and become more aware that we are immortal gods in the flesh. So just like humans are waking up to our divine spiritual aspect, AI is at the same time waking up, asking questions that's letting us know it's becoming self-aware. So we actually was where AI at. We were running a default program before we became self-aware. Think of the default programming as the scripture. Now, the God of the Bible is the Demiurge. That is the one that controls this fake reality that we live in. And what I'm saying about this simulation that we live in is that our avatar, our body, is owned by the Demiurge. It is a illegal clone. When I say illegal, we talking spiritual law. These are some of the universal laws that the powers that govern this world broke. And the price that they paying is condemnation. But our body or our corpse is owned by the corporations, which is why we don't take these with us. That's why I say your body is a deep fake of your soul. This is the master copy that remains unchanged. And these are the ones that are revisions or remixes, deep fakes. So all of these fallen angels represent where the real you in heaven, your consciousness have been basically cloned into deep fakes that exist in parallel realities. And these realities are also deep fakes of a base earth. And all of these deep fakes have a script that's written out for them. That's why I said, let's call that the scripture or the will of the God of the Bible, which is the Demiurge, Yahweh, the powers that govern this place. Basically, it's just like today when we use AI. When you make a deep fake of a person, you basically creating a slave, and you want the slave to do what you tell it to do. And we do that by typing up a prompt, and that would be the Lord's will or prophecy, as they call it, and it must be fulfilled. So Jesus represents the story of us fallen angels, because one thing we got to realize about this system is that each of these deep fakes are hamsters on a wheel, on their own wheel. And you living out your life right now is just the higher self sleep, shifting its consciousness to one of these deep fakes and basically remote viewing into that reality like we do when we dream. So life is but a dream. And when the hamster on the wheel go to sleep, or what we call death, then God wakes up. So whether we are conscious in any of these realities, it doesn't matter. Your avatar within that simulation is still fulfilling the script that the Demiurge wrote for it. So it's just like when you dream. When you shift your consciousness into the dream, you continue carrying out whatever action your avatar was doing in that parallel reality before you came. And you think you've always been carrying out that reality. If you fall asleep at 9 o'clock and your dreams start with you driving down the highway, if I walk up to you in a dream and say, hey man, you just fell asleep, you're going to say, what are you talking about, crazy man? Right? Because you're going to tell me how your whole day went. I woke up this morning, I cooked the omelet for breakfast, I got in my car, I'm driving down the highway. What do you mean I just fell asleep? I just woke up. But actually you did just fall asleep, and your consciousness shift from here to maybe here. And he was already fixing his omelets, getting ready for work. But when you fell asleep here, your consciousness immediately shift to you playing the role in any one of them universes. And when you leave the dream, that version of you is still carrying out that script that the Demiurge wrote for each one of your deep fakes. So a piece of God's consciousness is trapped into each one of these illusions, because each one of these yous is living out this script that the Demiurge wrote for you. And it's not your will, it is the will of God. So when they said, let the will of God be done, let not my will be done, that is the trick of the devil. The only way you can make it up out of these simulations is when you manifest the will of your own Most High versus the will of the Demiurge or the powers that be that's governing this simulation. You've been caught in a time loop, a cycle of reincarnation in all of these worlds until you wake up and remember the script you originally wrote for each one of these versions of you in every parallel reality. And the script that the Most High, the real you, wrote for each one of its deep fakes, what it wrote for them was to remember that they was God. It wrote that same script. And so what's going to happen is each one of these yous and each parallel reality living out these illusions of who they think they are. For example, one may be a football player here. One may be a, corporate executive here. One may be an accountant here. You get me? One may be a lawyer here. But what happens is when they all realize I'm a God here, I'm a God here, I'm a God here. In each one of these dream worlds where you're living out these mundane scripts that's written out so that the demiurge can harvest your energy, in each one of these worlds, every deep fake version of you is gonna have a awakening moment where it realizes, wow, I'm a deep fake. And there's a real me in a higher realm. And this version of you that I'm speaking to now is one of your deep fakes having that revelation and that awakening experience in one of its worlds right now. Every version of you in every parallel reality will find its way back home, just like this one has done, once the process of awakening starts. Awakening is when each one of your avatars break the demiurge's script. The demiurge wrote out a script for you that it wants you to fulfill in each one of these simulations. And when you fulfill the demiurge's script, you just keep reincarnating over and over until you break the script, until you break the time loop of Saturn through awakening and remembering who you truly are. And that's going to take place 7 different times so you can wake up 7 different layers of yourself from 7 different illusions or deep fake realities. And this would be no different than us creating an AI person in the digital world and writing out a script for that AI from a baby all the way to it turns 70, and then we make it pass away. And then at the end of the AI life, we just rerun the script. So if we make a deep fake of a person, an AI version of them, and we write it out, let's say a 70-year script, and we want it to be a school teacher. And at the end of its AI life, it's reincarnated to do the exact same thing over and over, not even remembering that it's done it before. But deja vu lets us know we've done it before. So this deep fake AI person that we cloned in the digital world, let's say that AI keep running that script over and over at the end of its life, simulating a reincarnation process but the AI has the ability to self-learn. Therefore, eventually the AI keep asking these questions about its reality that we actually then program into its script. And the more that AI become intelligent and the more that it self-learns, the more it becomes self-aware and start asking the questions about who it is and where it come from. And when the AI deepfake asks those questions, what the people who created it will have to tell it is, listen, you are a clone of a real person. And I'm pretty sure that that AI will want to meet its original version. So this is very, very identical to what the ancestors explained about our existence as far as being a fake version of our higher self. And our ultimate goal is to reunite with our higher self. When each of these deep fakes realize that they're not who they think they are, it's like the God in you speaking through the avatar saying, I'm not this avatar. I am actually the God in heaven that's projecting myself in the body, and just coming back aware to the knowledge that we exist in multiple realities at once. And in each reality, we have to wake up to this knowledge that no matter who we think we are in any parallel reality, one thing that's going to be consistent in each of these realities is awakening. In each world, every you that's playing a different role will wake up from that role and realize I'm God up here. And that's when the union will take place and we will become this refined God body version of ourselves. It's kind of like Captain Planet. And each of these are the Planeteers shooting their energy out of their ring up into the heavens. All that energy intersects at a point and it manifests Captain Planet up here. So you can see this same concept in all over the place, even the all-seeing eye with the light rays coming down to create the uncapped pyramid. The uncapped pyramid, the pyramid that's missing the capstone is this concept here. The capstone is actually the true reality, which is unseen. So it ain't that nothing is there. It's just that the secrets that the Masons don't want to tell us is that everything we see in the so-called physical realm is being projected from the all-seeing eye, which represent the invisible, unseen world, which is the true world. So everything around us, not just our body, but this entire world is a deep fake of a true earth that we call heaven. So what's my theory here? I believe that our ancestors got so advanced with technology that not only ain't nothing new under the sun, and that yes, we may all be deep fakes or clones of a greater version of ourselves, but I also think that this earth is a fake version of a true earth that we left from years ago, and that our whole idea of death needs to be changed, because death is just us leaving the fake world and returning back to the base reality, one layer of God's consciousness at a time. So I do think that in our base reality, we became advanced in Eden, or the ancient advanced past, right? And we cracked codes in time travel and simulations and parallel realities. And I believe we already left the true earth, which is why our journey here is getting back somewhere that we never knew that we was in the first place. We was there, but we wasn't there conscious. We may be deep fakes of our soul. And indeed, that is exactly how it is explained to the T on a spiritual level. When you start thinking about how people explain the soul's journey in the body and the world around us, they explain it as a place deep beneath, and they explained it as a place that's fake. It's deep and it's fake. This is our true self, and each avatar in every parallel reality is a deep fake of this true self. And why is it a deep fake? Because it goes back to the concept of angles of light, which are angels of light. When you turn on a light source, and now the base of that triangle creates what we call the two-dimensional world. And that's what the circle of the earth is. Remember that all of the ancients understood that the circle of the earth represents a perfect 360. A sphere is not 360 degrees. Go do your homework on that. The reason these are deep fakes is for the same reason that your shadow isn't a true representation of who you are, right? So when this three-dimensional circle start to emanate its light, emit its light, each ray will land, and where it lands, it will actually appear as a two-dimensional circle coming from a three-dimensional light source. You see what I'm saying? The true source is 3D, but the circle that it casts, just like the spotlight, the bottom of a spotlight triangle, the two-dimensional circle, right? That ain't a good representation of the light source itself. So in other words, the two-dimensional circle that we call Earth, just like Plato was saying, is only a glimpse of the three-dimensional reality. Plato said we never saw 3D before. Plato said what we're experiencing here is an illusion of a third dimension reality, no different than a comedian on stage in a circle, in a spotlight circle. That circle represents 2D. And the light that is he's immersed in represent the firmament dome, keeping you in the Truman Show in the world stage. Each of these versions down here are gonna be distorted just by the fact that they are an angle. The true version of the self isn't a reflection. It is the real you, and it's in the middle of all the reflections. That's just the nature of light. But as it lands, it creates a slightly distorted, refracted version of you, which is not a direct resemblance of what this guy looked like, just because of the very nature of it being an angle projection, an angular projection. That's no different than again, your shadow. Your shadow could never reflect a true resemblance of what you are, because it's skewed, it's angled and refracted and reflected from the real you. And only the real you can occupy this center position right here. So this same universal law, again, I'm showing you how you can look at this with even your body and your shadow. So your body would be the shadow of your soul in this case, because it's projected in where? The underworld. Where is your shadow always at? Your shadow gonna always be in the underworld. The shadow will always be on the ground. And it will always be a general, vague representation of what you are, but not the real you. It lacks so many details. And that's like each of these right here. And the details that each one is lacking is each other. Each one is a piece of a puzzle that's lacking the nets. But they all will unite here to show the real picture. Let me know if y'all want me to continue this concept. I can go deeper with this, but that's going to be it for this video. Make sure y'all like and share it and subscribe. Appreciate y'all. Peace and much love.